So to begin our bracelet here, what we are going to do is pick out our beads. The beads are going to determine kind of how you're starting and what your center looks like. In the design here, that's a little bit more simplistic, I used 6 OC beads down the center because I could get 2 strands through there, no problem. With these beads here, I'm using 8mm magnesite turquoise and some 8/0s. I'm not going to be able to get through 2 times with my cord, which I'm using the BeadTec brown knotting cord in the 0.8mm. To start out, I need to test my beads with my cord, realizing no problem to get 1 through each of this. So that's going to make my center line, instead of having 2 rows, 1, because I'm not going to be able to get them both on. To begin, I want you to take that knotting cord and I want you to create 4 equal pieces of 48 inches. So you've got 4 feet total, 4 of those. So you can see here I've got a bunch here at the ends, and I already have them folded over a little bit. So I've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 of those pieces here hanging out, and then I've got 1 more piece. My 448 are not going to change. The more knotting you do, the more cord you need. The less knotting you do, the more beads, the less cord you need. So more beads, less cord, less beads, more cord. The center, normally what I do is I double over the cord, and this is going to be about double your wrist. So I have 14 inches, about 28 inches total to get the center, because we are going to be creating a slip knot along the back. So your bracelet, for those of you that have metal allergies or know people with metal allergies, these are great because it doesn't require any sort of metal to do the clasp whatsoever. Because I know already that I need 1 strand down the middle rather than 2, I'm not going to fold this cord equally in half. If I knew that I was going to go in and do 2 cords, I would fold it equally in half. Instead, what I'm going to do is just go in, take a little bit of cord, maybe 3 inches or so, and the first thing we're going to do is put on our button. I'm using a table cut button, and I'm going to go up through the back of the button here. Important lesson here, if your cord is frayed a little bit, go in and use a thread burner or a lighter and just burn down the thread end a little bit. What that does is it's going to prevent it from fraying at the end. And then when you get to the point that you want to tie it off, it's going to actually help you to create a knot. Go up through the back of your cut button here, down through the cut button. And there's no right or wrong if you want to do the loop first or the button first, and out through the back. So now I have this long piece here that I want about 14 inches or so, and this short piece here at the bottom. This is to create a button if you want the button clasp versus that slip knot. Either way works, just showing you how to put on the button if you wanted to put that button on. If you want to do the slip knot, what we're going to do is just simply tie a knot right after the cord. So I'm going to leave myself about 5 inches here and simply tie a knot. This cord now, I'm going to take my macrame board, totally worth it, and I'm going to take it and tuck it into the top of the macrame board. So going right into the middle of that 3 section, you can see the macrame board is about 10 inches long. I have that center row. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our 2 cords to each side, 4 total that we have, folded in half. You want to make sure your ends are equal on the side. The first cord we're going to put on the left-hand side. We're going underneath the cord, and we're going to pull the 2 middle pieces through the cord and push that onto the right. Then what we're going to do is we are going to do another where we go in from the left-hand side, put those 2 cords in through, doubling them over, see that knot there, and just push that up. So now I have 1 to each side, and I'm going to repeat that again until we have a total of 4 of our cords on. Making sure my cord's in half here, nice and halfway in the middle. Going in here, cord goes under, open up that cord, and pull the 2 ends through the loop. There we've got 3 on, and now we need our 4th. Going in, the thread is doubled over, ends are equal. Going in from the right, tucking underneath the cord, opening up that loop, and grabbing your two ends, pulling it through the loop. So at this point now, we have 5 total pieces of cord. We have the center line, which you're gonna make about 14 inches or so, 5 inches, and we have the knot tied. We have 1 cord to the right, left, left. This is gonna be the start of our project, and we're gonna go in and get ready to add some of our beads as we create more knots. Just showing this aerial view, when you have your macrame board, you can see that I have my cord tucked into the bottom. I've loaded my first bead onto the center of my cord, and I have my 2 strands going out to either end. If you want to, for a time-saving purpose, you can actually add more beads. These are hanging down on the extra cord here, and now I'm going to bring the focus in as we go in and show the knotting. We're always going to begin with the topmost cord. So bringing this in here, we'll get our focus there. We're going to start with the topmost cord. The topmost cord is going to be the one that literally sits to the top. These other 2 cords on the right hand, or 3 cords coming out on the right hand side, are just going to sit there. And now the cord that's on the right is going to go over the top of those, over top of my middle piece, creating a little loop on the outside. We're going to take that tail of that same piece that's underneath, tuck it through that loop. We're going to do the same thing with this cord, except now we're going to go under, creating a loop on the right hand side. The cord goes under, and then that cord end gets tucked through the loop again. And there we go. We've got our first one here. What I'm going to do now is let that hang down, and we're going to go over to our first cord on the left side and do the exact same thing, bringing it over top of the other cords. They're not involved yet. I'm making a little loop, going over top of the center cord, tucking the cord end that I'm making the loop with through the loop we've just created, and pushing and pulling that up towards the top. Same thing again. This time we're going under the cord and taking our thread end through that loop that we've just created and up. And see how you're already getting those lines there started and those kind of little ruffles. Now, what do? Next topmost cord is going to be the second one from that first original cord. Comes over top of all of them, going over the top of the center cord, tuck it underneath and through that loop that you made along the side. From here, we're going to make the same thing, but we're going to go under the cord and then take the end through that loop that you've just created. And now that one's done. And you can see now that is our lowest cord. Next cord up on the top here goes over top of the middle. We create a little bit of a loop there, tuck it underneath that center cord and through the loop. Now next, create that loop by going under the center cord and take that cord end through the loop and up. Now, we have completed basically the first 2. We're going to do the same thing again with the next 2 cords. Going over here to the center, next highest cord, over the top of the center cord, making the loop and pulling the cord through that loop. Going under the cord and pulling it through that loop. You should start to see a pattern of every other cord getting in there. Now from here, next highest cord, just kind of take inventory of it and say, what's my next highest? Grab it over top of the center, creating a loop that's off to the left side. Go underneath the cord and through that loop. Create a loop by going under the center line. Or grab your cord through the loop you've just created and push up towards the top. See how we're getting that nice looping effect. We've got 2 more to do, and then we're going to push our next bead up. Cord goes over, makes my loop, pulls that up nice and tight. See how I'm getting that looping effect? Underneath now, creating a loop over to the right, pull your cord end through that loop, and done with that side. 1 more to do, going on the left hand side here, over the center line, creating a loop and through, pushing that up, under the center line, creating a loop, pulling that cord through to get that 1/2 hitch knot. Now you can tell there's no more cords hanging out above our bead. We just have this nice kind of looping effect of our herringbone beads, or our cord that creates that herringbone effect. From here, I'm going to grab my bead that's down at the bottom, pull up my strand from my center row, add my next bead in, tuck it into the bottom here, put my cord down, and then take inventory of where I am. Taking inventory of where I am, I can see which cords, the highest cord up that I need to use, always starting with the right hand side. This one's the highest, then this one, then this one, then this one. I'm going to alternate sides again, grabbing from the right, doing 2 knots, grabbing from the left, doing 2 knots. You're always going over top of all of the cords that sit below in line. Going over the top of the middle one, going underneath the middle one, and through the middle. This cord now, which was on top, now has that loop going along the side and is the bottommost cord. Now we're going to grab the cord that's on the left. Most at the top, going over that center, creating the loop, pulling through that center loop, and up towards the top. The tighter you pull, the less looping effect. The looser you pull, the more of that looping effect. Go underneath that center line, create that half hitch knot, push it up, and now that's your first 2 cords. I'm going to continue with the 3 more on the right, 3 more on the left, alternating sides and getting this looping effect. As you create here, you can see that nice, beautiful herringbone pattern starting to take place with those knots in the middle. As you push up each bead, when you put them on, you want to make sure that you're doing a little squeeze there on the sides. What that's going to do is bring those cords off to the sides to create that pattern and to keep them in line. So push your beads up and push your knots up along it. Tuck it back down into the board, and then once again continue with your knotting, knowing that whatever's top right is what you're starting with, then you're going top left and so on. That nice herringbone pattern will form, and you can see I'm already about here. We've already got about 5.5 inches. I'm on my last bead, and then I'm going to show you how to do that slip knot, or if you wanted to, go in and create with a button. As we go in and finish up the design, we have our start here that has 4 knots. We want to make the end look similar with a little bit tighter of that herringbone on the end towards our last bead here. So to do so, we are going to have to basically get rid of some of our strands that we're creating and working on, and we're going to do less knots. So we're going into our topmost strand after the bead. We're going to go under and over, and we are going to push up, going under or over, going under, and now we are going to keep this strand here. I'm going to go to the opposite side. I'm going to grab the topmost, go over the center, then I'm going to go under the center and have my cord there. Now, before I get too much cord, what I'm going to do, this is risky, you don't want to burn too much. I'm going to go in right now and burn off these ends. So I'm going to go in here. That is close. We're going to heat up these ends. You can do this with a lighter if you want to, but that is a little bit risky because it burns quickly. While it's still tacky there, touch it down to your end. Over on the opposite side, we're going to do the same thing. Let's get rid of it right away, making sure you're not burning your center cord. If you burn your center cord by accident, it's not the end of the world. You can use another cord. I'm going to go in here, same thing, melt down my side. And then as I'm melting down my side, as it gets close to the project, just take your hand or the end of your cord and just kind of press it down. We now are 2 cords lighter on our project, and we're getting closer to that end. I'm going to now grab 2 cords instead of 1, the next 2 on the right, and we're going to go over here, and then we're going to go under. Pull those to the side and have those there. Now the ones on the opposite side, same thing, we're going to pull 2 cords, the topmost 2, let's just get those top 2, same thing, we're going to pull them over and under along this bottom. There's my over, here's my under. Lastly, then I'm going to do the last 2 cords by themselves, and I'm going to go in and burn all of these cords down, so what I'm left with is just my center cord. Do your last knots here, 1 here over, 1 here under. Pull that nice and tight. Then we're going to get rid of that cord, and same thing here, over and under, nice and tight. What you can do if you want to after all of these is tie them all together. That makes them really, really manageable and easy. So now that you have less cord here, you can burn those down tight along the project, or you can just take all of your ends here, gather them up, and tie an overhand knot. That's going to make a big knot at the end, so that's kind of up to you. So what I'm going to do is go in, get close, and burn these thread edges down, so I'm just left with my center line. Thanks so much for joining me in this herringbone knotted macrame bracelet. Remember, there's a lot of variety that you can do, making it single strand, double strand, with seed beads, with gemstones, doing different versions of the loop, creating and using a button if you want to as well. Make sure to post your pictures of your herringbone macrame bracelet in our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making, and comment below with any changes that you made. Can't wait to see actually additional strands added to the outer edges too. Lots and lots of variety that can be done. As always, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss anything from us here at Potomac Beads. Thank you so much for joining, and stay tuned for more inspirational designs.